I'm Gil Alexander from the beautiful sportsbook at the Mirage Hotel in Las Vegas. Time to go behind the book. Welcome to the Behind the Book online sports show from the Mirage Sportsbook in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm Gil Alexander, host of the Beating the Book podcast once again, along with my friend Jay Rude, the Vice President of Race and Sports at MGM Resorts International. Hello, Jay.
How you doing?
I am good. We're going to talk college football. We're going to talk pro football. I see you're checking me out.
Yeah, your attire. I just want everyone to admire. I mean, obviously an upgrade in his attire this week.
Thank you.
Got rid of the hoodie.
Well,
more Belichick-ish.
It's an attempt to get a slump busting sort of thing happening here.
Right.
The slump I'm referring to, is you and me, Jay.
Right.
We're not good. I believe you coined it the hashtag we suck.
It's a very small sample size, though, but yeah.
It's getting to be bigger, though. Yeah. So we're 0-10 in picks is basically what we're referring to if you're tuning in for the first time. Each week, Jay and I give our best bet of the week. We've done it for 5 weeks. You do the math. 0-10. We'll try to do better later on the show, and we'll actually read some mean tweets.
Mean tweets, yes. We deserve them.
Well,
that's for sure.
They're probably true tweets is what they actually are, but we'll get to that later in the show. But first, some college football. Let's begin with maybe the biggest rivalry, not only in college football, but maybe, Jay, in all of sports. Michigan and Ohio State. This one at Columbus, Ohio State, 6.5-point favorites with all kinds of implications. As we talked about last week, Jay, Michigan wins this. They win the Big Ten East. They go on to play in the Big Ten Championship. But if Ohio State wins this game outright, then if Penn State wins, Ohio State doesn't even go play the Big Ten Championship. Penn State would go on and do that. And Ohio State, though, would still remain probably the number 2 team in the country. And that becomes a problem for the playoff committee. That, more importantly, becomes a problem on the entire college football landscape because the Big 12 and Pac-12 might get shut out in that case.
Right. So, I mean, if Ohio State wins over Michigan, Michigan goes nowhere.
Nowhere.
Ohio State goes possibly nowhere because if Penn State wins, the number 2 and number 4 in the country, maybe you're sitting home, not even participating in their own championship, but they yet are still somehow eligible for the Final Four, which is a complete disaster, as you were alluding to, yes.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Of course, the final rankings will come out December 4th. But as far as this game is concerned, Jay, Ohio State, 6.5-point favorites. Michigan, well, they've lost their starting quarterback, Wilton Spate. They've kind of gotten exposed by Indiana and Iowa in recent weeks, but they really are about their defense. Their defense has only given up 14 or fewer points in 8 of their last 9 of the last 11 games, or 9 of their 11 games this season. Ohio State, though, I mean, really both teams are coming into this game kind of limping in. Ohio State just gets by Michigan State, and their defense has kind of been exposed not only by Michigan State as 21.5-point dogs, mind you, last week, but also by Northwestern, also by Wisconsin. So, interesting game here. This is not Oklahoma and USC playing at the top of their games.
Yeah, no, it's and it's interesting that, you know, somehow the bookmakers here, we keep making them really, really big favorites, and they're barely scoring enough points to even get to the point spread, much less cover it.
Right.
So they're struggling definitely mightily on offense of both these teams. Both these teams, like you said, they're kind of looking themselves in the mirror. You know, JT didn't do a whole lot for Ohio State last week. You know, just sort of, you know, managed the game and got to a win. Like you said, Michigan is coming off with a bad injury to their quarterback that is still going to, you know, have impact to the game. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, in that particular matchup, you know, what we're going to need probably from a book perspective, you know, 6.5, everyone's going to say, okay, well, I can obviously see why they're the favorite. They're at home. Michigan's dinged up. I think we're going to see a lot of Buckeye money on this particular game. I think it's, you know, if it moves, it's going to go to 7. I don't see it coming down a whole lot unless the quarterback situation is going to drastically improve in the next 24 to 48 hours for Michigan. Then we might see it come off the hook and go down to 6. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a great game. It's a historical game. People are going to bet it regardless of whatever is going on. But wouldn't it be great if all what we just talked about, all that goes into complete chaos?
Yes.
And they don't have any criteria to judge teams on except for who are the best 4 teams.
Yeah.
And if that's the criteria, you might be seeing USC show up in there. You might see Oklahoma show up in there. You might see a team that isn't necessarily ranked in the
True.
top 10 because they had struggles early, but now are hitting on all cylinders. That would be, I think, if they do that and get it right that way, because they pick the teams that are the best 4 rather than you're this champ or you're that champ, it could work out.
I think the issue is that, when it was just 2 teams, now it's 4 teams, you're always going to have some controversy. The answer would be expand it to 8, but even in that case, I would imagine whoever's 9th in the country is going to be like, wait a minute, how are we not in this?
Happens in the NCAA tournament
Yeah.
basketball. 65 is
That's
always
right.
whining, so and they have no right to whine at that point. I mean,
Right.
go win an extra game.
That's right.
So, but I think I think the chaos could be good, because then if they just literally look at themselves and say, all right, let's pick the best 4 teams right now, they may not be conference champs. They might be guys that lost a game early and came back.
Should be a great game. Again, Ohio State favored by 6.5 at home, and you say that if anything, it moves to 7. That's your call.
That's my call, yeah.
Okay. I think I kind of like Michigan at +7 in that one. The other big rivalry game, and there are lots of rivalry games, but folks in Alabama and around that region of the country, they will disagree with what I said earlier, that Michigan-Ohio State is the best rivalry in college football, because they are all about Auburn and Alabama, the Iron Bowl every single season. This time, probably one of your bigger spreads ever in this
Yeah, I was
game.
going to say, how can it be a great rivalry when
Yeah.
you're laying 17, 18, 19 points?
17.5 is what you have Bama favored by
Yes.
right now as we look up at the big board. And I guess, I guess it's my job to kind of figure out how we can make a case here for Auburn. I guess that Alabama's starting quarterback, obviously, Jalen Hurts. He is a guy who is a freshman. Maybe he's not used to this big of a stage. We don't know how he'll respond. But then, he's not from Alabama. He's from Texas. Maybe it doesn't mean as much to him as it will in the years moving forward. He certainly didn't grow up on this rivalry. And then the one stat you can come up with against Nick Saban, and we are reaching here, we are definitely reaching, Jay, is that, Saban's won 6 titles in the SEC. He's won 5 national championships, but he has never beaten a 9-win Auburn team. And if Auburn wins this, there's your 9-win Auburn team. I'm grasping for straws.
Yeah, I think a lot of people saw Auburn struggle a little bit offensively last week. Alabama's been backed in every game this year. Every game that Jalen Hurts has played in this year has been a big game.
Yeah.
Everybody circles Alabama. Even when they were playing last week against Alabama, Chattanooga, Hattahoochee, whoever the hell it was.
Hattahoochee.
That was a big game, because everybody came to
missed that game. I think.
everybody came to watch the sacrificial lamb get slaughtered.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's Alabama football. It's all big games, but Auburn is particularly big. But yeah, when you're talking about 17 points, it's going to be a game that we're either going to draw Alabama money or we're not going to get a bet to it.
Yeah. And I guess there is a scenario where Alabama could get knocked out of the playoff, but that would involve them losing outright to Auburn and then losing subsequently to Florida. Unlikely to happen. Bama probably the one surefire thing in the playoff coming up later this season on New Year's Eve. By the way, if you're in Vegas this weekend, come on down to the Mirage Sportsbook and feel free to bet on either of those games or anything on the college football slate this Saturday. Let's go to the pros. All right, Sunday, week 12 in the NFL. Let's go to an afternoon game here, Jay. Good game between the Chiefs and the Broncos, AFC West game. The Broncos 3.5-point favorites as we look up at the big board, even though reduced juice on the 3.5. If the playoffs were to start tomorrow, the proverbial if the playoffs were to start tomorrow scenario, these two teams would be the AFC wildcard teams, and we would see this exact matchup in this exact spot. 3.5, I'm going to guess you're going to get Chiefs money here.
Yeah, we're probably going to get Chiefs money here. I mean, the Broncos, the backers have sort of pulled back on them a little bit this last 3, 4, 5 weeks, when they've had some difficulty with the quarterback position. This is a Chiefs team that hasn't been bet heavily at all this year.
Yeah.
A couple of spots by the Sharps, but realistically, there's not a big bandwagon for the Chiefs this year.
17 of 20 regular season wins extending back to last season, but not necessarily a spread juggernaut.
Right. That's what I'm saying. They're not grabbing anyone's attention except for the people that were already fans.
Yeah.
It's not like the Seattle craze that we've had over the last 4 years where suddenly everyone's a Seattle Seahawks fan.
You noticed.
I never saw Seahawks jerseys in here until about 3 or 4 years ago, and now that's all you see anymore. So, But the Chiefs slowly, steadily, they get the job done. They grind it out. I mean, that's what an Andy Reid team does.
Chiefs 17 of 20, even with losing to Tampa Bay outright last week at home. The Broncos coming off a bye here, so they've got extra rest. Probably why you get the hook here, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
That extra rest is built in.
A little bit of a hook, and then the Sharps realized that they like that side, so we went to -20 on them. I think we opened this 3.5 flat. A little bit of a play on the Chiefs by the Sharps.
Sharps having a rough year too, though.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, last weekend a lot of the Sharp play was on the same side that I needed, and we both took it in the shorts.
In the shorts. Sure. That's right. Good old school phrase right there.
Yes.
Let's go to Monday night. Packers and Eagles. Now, not quite the marquee matchup that we just discussed between the Chiefs and the Broncos, but two teams that are in the must-win situation of their seasons. Both teams floundering right now. Packers for sure floundering at 4-6, and who are just so depleted on defense. They were down to their third-string linebackers against the Skins the other night. The Eagles, I shouldn't say floundering. The Eagles are 5-5, but in that division, in the NFC East, they are in last place. Right. So a loss here, and really the season is done for whoever falls on the short end of this one.
Yeah. I mean, Eagles, realistically, with a rookie quarterback, are having a respectable year.
Yeah.
They're losing on the road like you would expect. They're playing well at home, which is a good sign for that quarterback and that team. And the Packers really just have kind of no excuse. I mean, the injury bugs has crushed them. And I think I read something on Aaron Rodgers. His throws over 20 yards or more, he's the last rated starting quarterback in the league. So, they're just not getting it done on any facet right now. And surprisingly, the public still keeps betting the Packers. Last week, the public was all over the Packers against your Skins.
Yep.
They're not getting to the cashier window.
I was on the Packers myself. We know how that turned out. We'll get to that in a minute. But the spread here, 3.5, just like the last game we talked about. But this is the Eagles -3.5. Aaron Rodgers, for all the poor stats, still with some timely runs, still really avoiding sacks at an elite rate. A lot of respect here just for Rodgers alone, I think, to have this muted at 3.5 still, because you watch the Packers, they do not pass the eye test at all.
Yeah, they don't pass the eye test, and I don't think they're going to pass the wagering test. I mean, I really think that the public is going to be all over the Eagles in this particular matchup.
I do too.
And it's simply because it's almost like the Arizona in college football. I mean, it's almost like this team can't get out of its own way right now.
Tough loss for them on Sunday night. Again, more injuries for the Packers as they go into this game at Philly on Monday night. And you'll have a big decision, as you do with all Monday nights,
yeah,
probably?
probably. I mean, hopefully we have a little bit better Sunday this Sunday, and the decision is muted a little bit, but there'll be a significant decision.
I'd like to root for you, Jay, but you are the book. So, not necessarily going to cry for you.
Your podcast name says it all.
That's right. Beating the book, by the way, for those scoring at home, available through iTunes. But now comes the sort of difficult time on the show where Jay and I have to really come to terms with our record on this show, picking games. Again, 0-10, a documented 0-10 in 5 weeks. And, Jay, before we actually make our picks, just want to highlight some comments made, or maybe one particular highlight that gives a flavor for how we're being received on the Mirage Facebook page.
Right.
And again, any questions for Jay, just put the hashtag behind the book throughout social media. Jay will answer all your questions, or do it right on the Mirage Facebook page, or make comments like Mark Rousseau did just this past week in response to our, and this, by the way, was, I think, when we were 0-8, not even at 0-10.
Hadn't reached the plateau yet.
Mark writes in all caps, Jay, which is...
Does that mean like he's yelling at us?
He's yelling at us. First of all, he says, great place to place bets. He's talking about the lovely Mirage
so he's extremely intelligent.
He's buttering us up, right? Yeah. And then he, and I'm just going to read it verbatim here, no bullshit there. Oh, and you two guys suck at making bets.
Yeah, nice. But I've been telling everybody that for the last 3 weeks, so hopefully everyone has taken the clue and been betting the other side. I mean, I have been taking so much shit from my team here at the work that we are so bad. I had a supervisor that said, we are due, and you know what the due factor does.
Yeah.
It crushes your bankroll. He said, you're due, and he bet our teams on a teaser,
we couldn't
even get there. Well, I got there.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe you didn't.
I didn't get there. Late fumble by the Packers, skin scoring. I didn't get
there.
So
I'm assuming that he's going to double up on us this week and see if he can't get to the cashier window.
0-10. We made this point last week. 0-10 just as valuable as 10-0.
Absolutely.
Because you just fade us. Get on the fade train. So this is really a very valuable service I think we're providing. But anyway, Mark, hey, thanks so much. we resemble that remark. you
Always,
know.
always looking for the input.
Yes. All right, Jay, would you like honors to go first?
Yeah.
College or pro, baby?
I think I'm going to actually stick in the college this week, and I'm going to go with a team that I've ridden a little bit over the year, and I'm going to take Florida plus 6.5 against Florida State on the road. Big rivalry game.
You love Florida.
Yeah, you know, I'm a Del Rio fan. He struggled a little bit. He's had a hard time. He hurt his knee early, but you know, I think 6.5 with that defense in a rivalry, that's a pretty juicy price to pass up. So
Pretty
I'm
juicy.
going to take the Gators plus the 6.5.
I-
And that's also a little dig to James Franklin, who works with us a little bit.
Yes.
He's a big Florida State kid, so
He is a Florida
just to like
State
get a little extra spicy.
Yeah, James, who, by the way, not here today.
Not here today.
No,
called
just decided not to
called
show
in
up.
vacant.
Yeah, no problem there. I'm going to stay in the pros. I'm going to go with your team from last week, the Tennessee Titans.
Yes.
Tennessee travels to Chicago. Tennessee, a 4.5-point favorite. That extra 1.5 scares me a little, I'm not going to lie to you. But this is Matt Barkley, not Jay Cutler for the Bears. Jay Cutler, his Bears career might be done.
Isn't that a better thing?
It might be.
Yes.
I am well aware of that, but you've got a Titans team that sort of alternates between great performances and not so great performances. Colts really had their number just historically, won 11 straight against the Titans, the 11th, as you know,
Yes.
last week.
That was a bad first quarter. They came back and played 3
They
great
did.
quarters.
People should know that we've
Yes.
gotten to the point now, and this is true, we actually text each other during these games, and you in the second quarter already pronounced
I
your
gave
bet
it up. In the second quarter, it was already, I threw it on the grill. It was done.
I was like, Jay, there's 3 more quarters. Maybe. No. I'm going to take the Titans. I'm going to give the 4.5. I think the Titans' running game comes through here at Chicago against a very hapless Bears team who's probably playing out the string, although Barkley obviously will give max effort here as a guy who wants to show his talents to the league, if
Absolutely.
nothing else, if not to the Chicago
'cause-
Brass themselves.
Yeah, because Jay will probably be in a Cardinal uniform next year.
I could see that.
Yes.
I could see that. I can't see Tony Romo in a Broncos uniform. I can't picture that.
Yeah, that's almost like a crime against nature.
Yeah. But you can kind of picture any aging quarterback in a Cardinals uniform, can't
Yeah,
you?
right. It's kind of like
Sort of
a
their thing.
nice little warm weather. Go there to retire. You know,
Well, all right.
collect a nice check.
Official picks: Florida getting 6.5
Yes, I like
against
that.
Florida State. I've got the Titans giving 4.5 in the
Slump
pros
buster.
at Chicago. It's the outfit trying to bust the slump. Gil Alexander, host of the Beating the Book podcast. Jay Rude, Vice President of Race and Sportsbook at MGM Resorts International. We're gonna do it, Jay.
We are. First, we're going to pound these beers,
Yeah, we're also
and then we might go over to the pantry and see what they got on the menu.
we've taken a drinking. Our record is so bad. Maybe this will help ease the pain.
Absolutely.
Good luck to you in your Week 12 pro bets and your rivalry games in college football. Come on down to the Mirage or any of the beautiful MGM Resorts International properties here on the Strip. We would love to say hello. Good luck with all your picks.
Man, you're good at that.
Thank you. It's the Behind the Book Sports Show. I should mention that.